31. Um, First time let me see. So we don't have anybody. When Jean comes, she'll be seated for Dave. Um, but at this point, she's not here yet. So, um, so first time on the agenda this evening, 7 Bradley Road, soil remediation, contaminated soil. Mr. Salta says you're probably here for that, right?
That's me.
Okay. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you need to do?
Sure. Do you want to hear the history of the site environmentally, or does that
Yeah,
help?
so, yeah, a short story.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you the pertinent information. So the site used to be United Tool and Die Company back in the day. They moved out in the late 80s. In 1990, there was a phase one assessment done that recommended phase two work. That was completed in 1992. They did find some petroleum contamination out there. And in 93, there was some extremely limited soil remediation completed out there. And that did receive approval from IWA at the time. There was some DEP correspondence just confirming it needed to be done at the time. And that was all completed by the book back then. I believe they only took out about 4 yards of material. It was just hand excavation. Fast forward to 2008, a second phase one was completed that also recommended additional phase two activity. The phase two is completed in later in 2008, and the reason I'm here is because at the time they identified elevated petroleum hydrocarbons near the loading dock of the facility, which is adjacent to the West River. It's on that side of the property. At the time, there was no real driver to complete intermediation because, like you were talking about earlier, the site is not in a DEP program. It was not a transfer X site. So the common understanding at the time was if the site was not in a program, the RSRs, the remediation standards, don't apply to the site specifically. So at the time, it was allowed to remain in place. And in this year, the property is in the process of being sold. I completed a phase one last year, reviewed all the existing data, but in the interim, the DEP issued some new, I wouldn't call it a new guidance, but it's a new interpretation of the RSRs that is basically saying that the remediation goal for any site in Connecticut is compliance with the remediation standard regulation criteria. So based on that, I recommended some limited excavation and removal of the contamination around the loading dock area. That was initially going to happen post sale, but because there is an SBA loan involved in this, SBA is requiring everything to be done pre purchase. So I'm here on behalf of my client. I don't know if you've seen the letter I submitted, but it's a small area. It's about 25 by 50. It's paved and it's bordered on one side by the loading dock ramp, which slopes downward for trucks, and on the other side we have a uh, concrete or a cement block retaining wall, like a masonry block retaining wall. So, and we've also got shallow groundwater in this area. So the plan would be to go out there, remove the pavement, install the straw wattles around the perimeter of it for sediment control, remove probably 1 to 2 feet of clean overburden material, and then remove contaminated soil down to the water table, which is believed to be shallow in the area. It's probably 4 to 5 feet below grade. The soil will be stockpiled on site on and under polyethylene sheeting for probably a week until we get the laboratory results back for waste characterization, and then it'll be transported to Clean Earth in Plainville for recycling. The excavation will be backfilled with 3/4 inch process and compacted lifts, and that would be maintained along with the wattles until the asphalt plants reopen in the next couple months. That's kind of the nutshell version. I sent over a picture kind of showing the area. The shipping container in that picture has since been removed. The cooler at the rear of that photo, there's a walk-in cooler that's been removed. The ice machine has been removed. So basically, there's nothing here except for the masonry block wall on the right and the loading dock on the left. And the site plan shows where this is in relation to the rest of the property.
So none of the work is directly in wetlands, then it's all in upland area, I take it, right?
Right, yeah, it's all paved, you know, we're
Yeah.
not going beyond, not anticipating the need to go beyond the pavement, so.
Mhm. Well, in my mind, it makes sense to get this done as soon as possible since it's been there for years and probably
It
isn't
has
gonna
been
change
there a while,
forever anyway,
right?
but anyway, it's, Chris, this would be something I think we would just delegate to you to get done before having to wait till next month, but I don't know, does anyone else have any questions or things they wanna discuss? Go ahead, Steve.
Yes,
Pardon me. Just out of
yes,
curiosity, I don't have any drawings in front of me. How far is the end of the paved area that you're going to dig up to either the wetlands or to the river, which wherever it would
Um,
have been flagged, if it had been flagged?
yeah, I mean, we're only planning on, it's only gonna extend to where the paving is, it's not going to go beyond that, but
Yeah.
the paving is, you know, it's not far from the riverbank, let's put it that way. There's
Okay.
probably about a 15 to 20 foot unpaved area between that and the riverbank.
And you don't anticipate the contamination being at the end of the driveway. It's going to be towards the cement wall for the trucks back
Yeah,
in.
based on the data we have, so in the loading ramp itself, we're at about 3,500 parts per million of petroleum hydrocarbons.
Yeah.
And once we move away from that, we were down to 830, I think it was. So as we move away from that area, that's the obvious source. So we'd be moving out of it. And the criteria we're aiming to hit is the 500 part per million standard.
I don't have any problem. Like you say, the sooner is better, and if we can give that to Chris, that would be fine by me.
Steven?
yes, thank you. Uh, uh, Thank you, Mr. Solstice. Tell us, has there been identification of any other areas of concern on the property? We have a few phase ones and a phase two, at least one phase two. Were there any other AOCs?
Yes, they did.
Including, excuse me, let me just finish by saying that, including floor drains in the property that we might be interested in knowing about?
Yeah, that was actually what was remediated back in the early 90s was they found contamination at the floor drain exits from the property.
And that was remediated back then?
Yes, yep, they did some limited soil remediation and sealed the drains at the time.
Okay, how about were there any other AOCs on the property?
That were investigated. I mean, they did a number of soil borings around the property. Everything was clean after in the 2008 investigation. Everything was fine except for that portion of the site around the loading dock. They do have some groundwater monitoring wells. They had some detections in that of pHs. I believe those were probably a result of the well installation process because they sampled temporary wells, which I don't like to sample for pHs from temporary wells just because you'll have that turbidity issue.
Mhm. Very good, thank you. That's it, Bob.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Josh, do you have anything you wanna ask about? Okay. All right, well, my inclination is delegate this to Chris. Chris can deal with it. Looking at the plan, it looks like most of the area is paved anyway, so it makes sense to just get it dug up and removed. So, I mean, do we have a motion to delegate this matter to Chris so she can deal with it administratively?
I will so make that motion.
Okay, Jack moves. Stephen, you want a
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, Chris, 1, 2, 3, 4. 401, 400. Uh, what this does is it shortens the time period for you to get going on it rather than wait till next month where we would have to deal with it as an agency. By Chris dealing with it administratively, you can get it done before then. So,
That sounds great. All right, much appreciated.
no, we thank you. So,
Thank you.
All right,
okay.
thank you, gentlemen.
Yep, have a good evening.
You too.
All right, next item on the agenda, Massaro Farm, 41 Ford Road. Request for request for repair of farm access road which crosses a wetland and stream. Mr. Monroe, are you here for that?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Farmer Steve's here.
Everyone.
So you want to just tell us a little bit? I read through the materials. It sounds like it's just repairing what's been there, and it just needs to repair it. But why don't you just summarize what you're looking to do?
Yes, so the storms from this summer started to erode the road a little bit, which was uh, sort of made firm in 2019. I want to say it was spring of 2019, March. We made this road so that it wouldn't wash out, and thankfully we did, because I don't know what the storms would have done to this road without the work that had been that was done at that time. But some of the stone has sort of rutted out down to the filter fabric, and then a little bit of that has sloughed off. A little bit of that stone has sloughed off into the stream where it actually crosses the stream and wetland. So we'd like to repair that this spring. We have another project happening with the construction company Haynes, who had done that work in 2019. And while they're doing the other work on the farm, we thought it'd best be to repair this so that it doesn't get any worse. I don't know if someone needs to come and take a look at it. I did share a few pictures and a view of the farm where that is. If you need me to share my screen, I can do that. Or I don't think I have access to do that, but I sent along some photos. So, but the idea is, yeah, simply to repair this so that it's suitable for crossing, so we don't lose any more stone into the stream.
Okay, so this is something you plan to do when other work's being done in the springtime? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah, the other work won't impact the wetlands, but we have we have some other work in the area, and it's nice to put everything together when the contractors are here, because it's hard to make that happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chris, are you familiar with the situation there, or you? Because
I
what we
truthfully have never been out to the site, but this is primarily just an action by you to determine that no permit is necessary. I mean, I can certainly go out to the site and meet with Steve, but this typically is something where he's just providing you with information so that you can determine under section 4.1A that it's just maintenance of existing roads that are essential for the farm.
I'm comfortable with that, Steve.
Yeah, just, I hate to be obnoxious. I'm wondering, is to the extent that that has washed out, has that ended up in the water course or so? Is there any need to disturb or remove anything that may have been deposited that was formerly on the roadway?
So there's a little bit of stone that has just sort of sloughed to the side where it crosses. I wouldn't say it's been deposited in there, but I think the disturbance will be minimal. Um, you know,
A historic, it not will be minimal, but the disturbance that resulted from the washout of the gravel, that is minimal currently.
yes,
Chris will tell us too.
yeah. The water that flows through. So it's a sort of an ephemeral stream, and in a wet year like this, there was water passing through it, more of the year. But most years it's dry by summer. Obviously, not the case this year with multiple storms throughout the summer. But the water happily filters right under the road. It's an earthen roadway, and it still it didn't dam up the water or anything like that. It all passed through nicely. So no issue there.
Very good, thank you, Chris. If you could, I guess take note of what may have been deposited in the water course, just in case.
Yeah, I guess my only other question is, will this happen repeatedly? Are you doing something to prevent it from happening in the future, or is it just putting it back the way it was?
It's a good question. There is one water bar on the road. On this road is a slope downward. There's one water bar, and the plan is to add a second water bar. And I think obviously with climate change upon us and there being more heavier rain events, these are designed, and this road was engineered by the Natural Resource Conservation Service. It needs to be beefed up a little bit, which was with the idea of putting in the second water bar. The storms this summer were somewhat extraordinary, having about 10 inches of rain, over a 24 to 48-hour period, on two occasions.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think the adaptation will be to add a second water bar downslope of the existing one, which then will divert water into our woods, not into the wetlands, to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Okay.
But again, I think happily the road, I sort of am afraid to think of what it would have been like had this work not been done. So the initial road work would have, prevented it from being a total washout and total loss of the road.
I'm comfortable with treating this as outside our regulation, just as a repair. I don't know what everyone else thinks. I mean, worst case, we'd have to decide and approve it next month, but that won't impact their timetable, but I'm not sure why we need to carry it on the agenda. Steve?
I agree with you, Bob. I believe would be characterized as a de minimis impact that I think Chris is capable of addressing on behalf of the commission.
Josh, your mic's off, I think.
I think we can get a report from Chris next month.
Well, I mean, we either could decide it's
Whoops, I disappeared. I don't know what I did.
no, you're still there. We see you.
Well, that's good.
I think what we basically have to decide is whether this is sort of an exempt, well, as an exempt activity just because they're just maintaining and repairing what's already there, or whether we should treat it as a new activity and be a regulated activity and deal with it next month. I have no predisposition toward either direction. Probably favor a little bit the former, but anyway, I'll defer to whoever.
I'm okay with it being a repair. I mean, there's no reason to.
Yeah, and
Nothing new is going to be done. It's going to just fix what was there.
yeah, I would just ask that you talk to Steve. Talk to Christine about exactly what you're going to do, just to be sure she's comfortable with it. But other than that, I'm not sure we should make a big deal out of it. So,
I agree.
okay. So then, do we have a motion to consider this as an exempt activity outside our regulation? But the app, well, Mazzaro Farm is going to talk to Chris just to be sure that what's done is consistent with what we think should be done.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second. Jack? Okay.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? You're all set. Just talk to Chris when you get, in case you have any questions or if you need to get any direction from her when you go to, when you get to do the work. So,
Will do. Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you for coming before us.
Okay, moving right along. Under old business, Litchfield Turnpike LLC 14 and 10 and 14 Merritt Avenue, 14 lot subdivision application. Mr. Garcia, are you still here? Oh, hi, Gene.
Sorry.
No problem. You're seated for Dave, so
Oh, I'm sorry. So embarrassed.
no, nothing to be embarrassed about. So, on Litchfield Turnpike, I don't see John Paul here. Oh, there you are.
There it is.
Okay.
We submitted a request to postpone for 30 days because we have not received any engineering review comments, so we got nothing to do.
Okay. Well, I guess what we can decide tonight is whether we want to treat this as a public hearing situation, and that way we don't have to wait till next month to make that decision, and we could actually start a public hearing if that's the decision next month. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are. There seems to be a fair amount of interest in by the public in this. So my inclination is to treat it as a public hearing and go through the more formal process, but I'm open to suggestions.
I agree that there's a number of people I didn't even know were interested have asked me about it. So I think a public hearing is a good thing.
Okay, Stephen, your thoughts?
And I agree. I agree. A public hearing would be appropriate
Okay,
with this application.
Jack, Jean, any thoughts? Any?
Yes.
Okay.
It's gonna impact on that neighborhood.
Yeah, it seems unanimous then. So John Paul, what we'll do is we'll start a public hearing next month. By then we should have input from Chris Gullo Engineering. And Chris, if you get anything in from Jim in order to sort of save time on this, and I'm sure you will, send it over to John Paul so that he can start working on whatever comments they have, and they can start discussions, between the engineers, so that when we start a public hearing, we can make some progress rather than drag it out for a few months.
Yep, that's not a problem at all.
I know.
And just to keep you up to date, we have a meeting with the Conservation Commission on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. to go over an open space requirement.
Okay.
Very good.
And I guess somebody, I saw an email exchange someplace where there was a question about activity starting down there, but that was in connection with the prior application that was approved, as I've been told. And that's all that's being done at this point, right, John?
Yeah, the two houses on 24 Merritt are done and they got COs, and they've now started the two houses that are the front. I think there are lots 11 and 12 on the new subdivision, but they're the two that were approved 2 months ago.
Okay, yeah. So if, in case anybody has any questions and they go down there and they see something going on, that's the reason. Stephen?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Jean-Paul, I walked the property the other day and I noticed a few things. It looks like the stockpile has exceeded the silt fence on the eastern border abutting the wetlands. So if you could take a look at that. And then I also noticed that there's a debris pile, a stockpile of trees and other vegetative matter that is closer to the wetlands than the stockpile, which may be within our upland review area. So if you could take a look at that too.
So
And
there's
then,
two
I have
stock-
to
there's
say,
two
I have
stockpiles,
to,
one of dirt and one of debris.
yes,
Okay.
some, vegetative, not building materials, but vegetative, tree branches and stuff like that, neatly piled. But again, looks like it's even closer to the wetland. And then finally, I'm not sure I could find all the wetland flags out there on the two wetland areas to the north of the property, northeast of the property. The wetland flagging looked a little bedraggled, and I wasn't really dressed to get in as deep as I would have liked, but it did appear to me that maybe the weather had taken its toll on one or more of the wetland flags.
On the northeast,
Yes,
I'll take a look. That adjacent to the
Highway.
Highway.
yeah, and then finally, it looks like I don't know. Is there a dumpster out there still, and is that within the upland review area?
I have to check. I don't know.
Okay, I think when I was there, I may have passed a dumpster that I thought was curiously um, placed within the upland review area to the west of the property.
Making notes here, so I will send out
Thanks.
an email tomorrow. Copy Christine.
Thank you, John Paul.
No problem.
Anybody else have anything they want to interrogate John about before we continue this?
It's an interesting turn of events. Okay, turn of the tongue.
No connotation intended, just a question, I should say, so. All right, then we'll continue this matter to next month. We'll start it as a public hearing and hopefully we'll have engineering comments back before then you can start working on. And by then too, you'll have Conservation Commission issues that you may be needing to address, so, okay.
Thank you very much, and have a pleasant evening, everybody.
Yep, thank you for showing up, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Next time on the agenda, you going to be here for this one too, John? For the bond?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know it was on the agenda. Okay.
Yeah, well, next time on the agenda is Green Meadow Estates Peccariel Road subdivision bond release request. I guess they're looking to reduce the bond, and I saw some correspondence back and forth on some issues that were outstanding. I don't know where everything stands at this point.
Monuments have all been installed, with one exception, and the outstanding items were addressed in Bobby Criscolo's 2016 letter. There was a question about mowing the banks. There was a question about a rebar. There was a question about installation of two catch basins. Two catch basins, one is on a lot that was sold. And so my contention is that the catch basin installation is now the purview of the lot owner as opposed to my client. The same thing with the other lot. He still controls that, but nothing's been done. So we're not going to install the catch basin until such time as the lot is developed. The three items that were on the Bobby Criscola review comments from 2016 cannot be addressed at this time because of the weather. You know, mowing. Let me pull up the letter. I apologize. I was kind of unprepared. I didn't know it was on the agenda. Hold the phone for just a second. Okay. In order, lot number 3 has been sold to the owner of lot number 2, and so the installation of catch basin 20 should be the responsibility of the owner of lot number 3.
Before we run through that though, I mean, I thought the drainage installation work was supposed to be the responsibility of the developer. I don't really see how we can pass that obligation along to the purchaser when we have a bond out for the work.
The catch basin locations on those 2 lots are right next to the house. In other words, you would have to install the catch basin and then rip it up again when you build a house. That's why they were never installed. They were installed on a lot by lot basis. And so if they're not required for anything other than to pick up the drainage from that lot when the driveway is constructed and when the house is constructed. So the owner of lot number 3 has no, or the new owner, who's the owner of lot number 2, has no intention in the foreseeable future of constructing a house. Well, if the only purpose of the catch basin is to pick up the drainage from the driveway and the drainage from the roof, that's not going to happen for who knows how long. And that's the same thing with lot number 1. It's undeveloped, so there is no increase in runoff coming off the lot. So that's that rationale. Lots number 5 and 6.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll talk to Jim about that, but what I'm afraid of is that when they go to develop those lots, somebody might not be paying attention that, you know, there should be some kind, and there may be alternatives as far as dealing with the increased runoff on those lots, but we gotta figure out how we police that to be sure it happens.
Lots 5 and 6 have been sold. They're being
Hold on
developed.
one second, John Paul. Steve,
I'm sorry?
Steve had a question.
You know, Jean Paul, yeah, thank you, Bob. So my impression is, I think this is a little more complicated than Jean Paul perhaps appreciates, but I think from a commission perspective, I think we'd have to, I'd like to be able to confirm those representations about the unconstructed catch basins purpose and things like that. But I
Sure.
think there might have to be action by the commission before we could in perhaps modifying the approval or so, if we're going to relax or release the bond requirement under these circumstances. So I'm just not sure it's as simple, Jean Paul, as a stroke of the pen.
Well, I don't think it's that complex, but that's fine. I have no problem with that. Talk to Bob or talk to Jim Preddy. And, I submitted the letter. I've made my recommendation, and we can modify it any way you guys want to do it. Not a big deal.
Now, to the extent that there are lots that are currently have houses on it, I guess we need to have Jim verify that those installations or whatever was supposed to be done on those properties has been done also. So, I mean, aren't there like 4 or 5 houses over there now?
3 at least.
Originally, all the
4.
drainage, if you read Bob's letter from 2016, all the drainage, with the exception of those 2 catch basins and some maintenance items, were done. Now the owners of lots 2 has been developed, the catch basins and everything's functioning. Lots 5 and 6 have been sold, and those are now under construction. Those are the 2 at the north end of the site, and those are under construction. The drainage was originally installed there. If these guys mucked it up during their construction, then it's up to them. They have to fix it. Everything else has been done that the commission had asked. Those were the items that were open.
Okay.
On Bob's items A through C were the ones that were still open per se, and the 2 catch basins. Everything else had been done. So as far as the two catch basins, you want to talk to Jim Preddy about it? That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm sure my client won't either. Lots 5 and 6 have been sold. The drainage swales are in there. They were in there the other day. I saw them. I went down during the rainstorm of Tuesday, take a look to make sure everything was still functioning. There was nothing going out in the street, and they were functioning. If they get that drainage gets dinged up during the construction of 5 and 6, the owners of 5 and 6 have to fix it. As far as items A through C, we can't be verified at this time because they were covered with snow, and item D appears to be fixed. So I recommended a bond of $6,500. If you want to modify that, that's perfectly valid. And you guys have a valid question. How do we handle 3 and 2 so it doesn't fall through the cracks? That's
Okay.
a valid question.
All right.
Can we pass this pending? I'm not sure the commissioners have enough information at hand to be able to make this decision.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we'll have to continue it till next month and just have Jim see if John's 6,500 suggestion is appropriate. So,
Well, that's for the two catch basins and items 5A through C. If there's something else that comes up that you want to suggest, I have no problem with that.
okay. All right, then what we'll do is we'll have to have Jim, dig deeper into this and let us know what he thinks. I know he's started to look into it, but he didn't have time to finish it yet. So,
That's fine.
Chris-
It's not a
Chris,
problem.
Chris, do you have anything you add to that, or is that pretty much where things stand?
Hello.
Yeah, that's okay. Then why don't we just continue this, and what we'll do is we'll deal with it next month, and hopefully get some resolution on this.
No problem.
I agree.
We've been dealing with it for 10 years.
I'd like to move to table this matter until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Sure, that's So we have a second for tabling.
Second.
Josh, okay. Josh just beat you. Gene.
Sorry.
On favor? Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. All right. Thank you, John Paul.
Thank
Sorry
you.
to catch
We'll
you.
talk to you next
Sorry to
month.
catch you off guard, but I know there was interest in getting this resolved. So
This is not a big deal. We've been playing with this for 10 years. What's another month?
yeah, as long as he doesn't have to pay to renew the letter of credit in the meantime. So
Well, that's what the argument is. We'd like to get it down so that we can.
yeah, I
No.
think there was like $170,000 letter of credit.
Yeah,
for
he
this
wants to
thing.
get it down to something manageable, like $6 or $8 or $10,000.
Right. Well, we'll deal with it next month, and then
Okay,
he can.
not a problem.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, people.
Yep.
Thank
Thanks. Okay. Enforcement officer report. Chris, do you have anything to add? Chris. Okay, we'll skip that. We dealt with the agency meetings, by separate emails. I think we'll move the two that conflict with the holiday periods to the next week, just to avoid any issues. We don't have any site visits at this point, but if anybody wants to, like Stephen did, go down to Merritt Avenue and take a look at things, feel free to go, just to familiarize yourself, of course. And we don't have minutes because we didn't get a package, but we could deal with those next month. Does anybody else have anything else we need to talk about? No.
yeah, I'm good.
No, good job, Bob.
Hopefully
Just a question on I guess if we're going to have a public hearing relative to Merritt Street, are we going to be able to discuss it amongst ourselves before that, or how will that all work? Or do we have the public hearing and then have a discussion afterwards?
Yeah, no.
In a regular meeting.
If we're going to a public hearing, you have to all the discussion has to be in the public hearing, and then once it's closed, we can talk about it outside the hearing, but we can't have anybody else involved in the discussion. So that's roughly how it works.
Okay. When you say anybody else, meaning?
Oh, Chris and our consultants can be involved, but I mean third parties.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Either
good.
the
All right.
applicant or neighbors or residents
Yeah,
in
okay.
town.
All right.
So we have that to look forward to next month, provided everybody does what they're supposed to do in the meantime. I don't know. I think that's about it, unless somebody else has something.
No, it looks.
Hearing
Yeah.
nothing. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
I'll
Jean?
second.
Gene seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 8:06. We're done for the evening. Thank you, everyone.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Very good.
See you next
Stay
month.
safe, everybody.
Next month.
Stay safe.